didn't say Sheldon. I was expecting to jump over it.
Okay, this is section 4.5. So on your notes in the top right corner, put 4.5. So when you collect all your unit 4, we have a couple more weeks. Unit 4 is one of the longer units. So when we collect all the unit 4 notes to turn them in before the test, it's easy to keep track of. So this is 4.5, unit 4, section 5. So keep them someplace. I don't care. Get a folder, keep them in here. Keep it in a binder. I don't care wherever, but if you want to keep them in here in a folder, that's fine. So 4.5, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to introduce a new form. Okay? So the two forms we've talked about so far of a line. The first form was what? The form we all know. Well, we know standard. What's standard form look like?
AX plus BY.
Okay, all the warm-ups, all the equations on the warm-ups were in standard form. If it's in standard form, we can graph using x and y intercepts like we've done the past 2 days. The other form that you're probably more familiar with is what? Which is called what? Slope-intercept form. Those are the two forms we have. Slope-intercept form and standard form. This is introducing a new form. It looks complicated. Don't worry too much about it. This is point-slope form. So point-slope form looks like this. Y minus y sub 1. So y sub 1 just means it has that little 1 to the right of the y. So y minus y sub 1 equals m times, so in parentheses, x minus x sub 1. This is point-slope formula. This is another way to represent a line. We don't use this way a ton, but it is helpful for what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so I want to write the equation of the line where I give you the point. So if you look up here, the point is x1 and y1. So they're going to give you a point. You're going to take your x value, your y value, and plug it into your equation. And then they're going to tell you the slope. The slope is always represented by m. So all you're going to do for this is you're going to take your point and plug it in where x1 and y1 are. And then you're going to take your slope and you're going to plug it in. Okay? So that's all we're doing. I know this looks kind of weird, but all we're doing is basically plugging numbers in. Okay? Now the directions are going to say, find the equation of the line. When it says find the equation of the line, I want to get it in slope-intercept form. So I want it to look like y equals mx plus b. Okay? So I am given a point and a slope, and I want you to write it in slope-intercept form. So basically, I need to take my equation and solve it for what if I want it in slope-intercept form? Slope-intercept form. Solve it for, look at your equation. This is slope-intercept form. This is slope-intercept form. I want to take my equation and solve it for what? Y, like we've done before. So what we're going to do, let's look at example 1. If I look at example 1, I give you an ordered pair, and I give you the slope. So an ordered pair, if I look up here, the ordered pair, the point is x1, y1. So 4 is going to be x1, 1 is going to be y1, and my slope is represented by which variable always? M. So if it's helpful to label it, if you look at your ordered pair, your x value is x1, your y value is y1, and your 2, which is the slope, is your m value. So 4 is x1, 1 is y1, and your slope is m. So you're going to start with the equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we're going to plug in the information. Don't make this harder than it is. We're plugging in stuff. So I'm going to have y minus y1. What's y1? 1. So y minus 1 equals m, which is 2, times x minus, what's x1? 4. This is the starting point. All you're doing is you're taking your ordered pair, plugging it in for x1 and y1. Make sure you get the x and the y in the right spot. And then you're taking your slope and you're plugging it in for m. Now, I want to get it in slope-intercept form. So I want to get y alone. Use common sense. If I want to get y alone, what should I do first to simplify this? Preston? Okay, we can add 1. We're going to wait to add 1. What should I do first on the right side to simplify it? Distribute. So let's distribute first. You could technically add 1 first, but it's easier if we distribute. So we're going to distribute first. Common sense tells you if you have a number in front of parentheses, that's the first thing you're going to do. So I have y minus 1 equals, if I distribute the 2, what do I get? 2x minus 8. The reason I like to distribute is because when I add the 1 over, I like distributing first, because when I add the 1 over, I actually have something to put it with. I want to get it in slope-intercept form, so solve for y, add 1. So y equals 2x minus
1.
negative 8 plus 1?
Not 1.
Negative 7. Okay, is this in slope-intercept form?
Yes.
Yes, y equals mx plus b. Y is solved by itself, so that's slope-intercept form, that's it. You guys can do this. We are plugging in numbers, we are distributing, and we are solving an equation for y. We've done all these steps before, we're just putting them together. Okay, guys. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's look at 3 real quick. If I look at 3, I have a point, I have a slope. So as I start plugging it in, negative 6 is going to be represented by what? x1. 0 represents y1. And the slope 2/3 represents m. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your ordered pair that gets plugged in for x1, y1. Your slope gets plugged in for m. So take your equation and plug it in. So I'm going to have y minus y1
y minus 0.
0
2 over 3.
equals your slope m. I'm using the equation 2/3
Parentheses x minus 6.
times x. Be careful. It's x. If you look at your equation, it's x minus x1. So it's going to be x minus negative 6. So be careful with that negative. I'm subtracting the negative 6. Be careful with that.
You wouldn't distribute on this, would you?
We will. Just a second. Let's go ahead and simplify. First of all, y minus 0. Anything minus 0 is just what?
0.
No.
Y.
What's 2 minus 0?
1.
What's 2 minus 0?
2.
What's 4 minus 0?
4.
So anything minus 0 is just
Y.
y. It's just itself. So it's y. So y equals 2/3. Let's simplify a little bit before I distribute. What's x minus negative 6? Minus negative 6.
X. Negative 6x.
No. What's x minus negative 6? Plus plus. Two negatives next to each other. X plus 6. Now, the nice side.
I don't know, hold on.
Just
I don't
yes.
understand that.
What?
You just plus plus. How you just did that?
Minus the negative is always plus plus.
Yeah, always cancels out.
So if you have a negative next to if you have a minus next to a negative, they both become a plus.
I got it.
Okay. Now this is solved for y, but it technically doesn't look like y equals a number times x plus another number. So let's distribute the 2/3.
3x.
Okay. So let's see. Y equals what's 2/3 times x? 2/3 x. Now on your calculator, we've talked before about how to multiply fractions. So get your calculator out. I want everyone typing this, please, so you know how to do this. I would love if people all had calculators like I've asked you multiple times to do.
It's 4. Your wife is 4x.
Everyone grab a calculator, please, if you don't have one. If I need to call people out, I will. Okay, so 2/3. So 2 ABC button 3. That's 2/3 times 6.
4.
4.
Watch out.
So plus 4. Okay, this is now y equals a number times x plus another number. So that's in slope-intercept form. So that's your answer. Do not make these harder than they are. Plug in your slope, plug in x1, y1, and then simplify. Okay. Let's look at another one. Let's look at 4. Okay, let's look at 4. So, as I look at 4, let's start with my equation. It's y minus y1. What would be y1 in this case? Negative 1. So, be careful because I'm subtracting the negative 1. So put the negative 1 in parentheses. Y minus the y value. So y minus y1. So y minus negative 1 equals m, which is what? Negative 3/4 times, in parentheses, x minus
Negative 8.
-8. X minus -8. So it's minus the -8. So check. Be careful when you have negatives that you put minus that negative number. Any questions so far? Okay. Let's start from the left. Y minus -1 becomes what?
1.
No.
Y plus 1.
Y plus 1 minus the negative becomes y plus 1 equals -3/4 times
X plus 8.
x minus a -8 becomes x plus 8. Well, we're not going to subtract until I distribute. So I have y plus 1. Let's distribute first. -3/4 times x. -3/4 x. And then -3/4 times 8 on your calculator. Get over the fact that there's a fraction. Plug into your calculator. So negative, make sure you use the negative button, not the subtraction button. -3/4. So -3 ABC button 4.
So -3/4 x minus 6. Now this is not solved for y. So what do I need to do to solve for y? -1 minus 1. Y equals -3/4 x. Just put it. Okay. -3/4 x. -6 minus 1, which is -6 minus 1. -6 minus 1
What? Negative 6 minus 1?
is negative what?
Negative
7.
7.
Okay, good. Okay, we're going to do one more. You're going to have plenty of time to get the homework done. You're going to have some time to work on Alex or whatever, which is okay. I don't mind taking it slow. Okay, let's look at 6 real quick. Let's go through these steps. Okay, as I look at 6, first thing I'm going to do on 6, let's see. Preston, what's going to be the first thing I do on 6? Okay, that's y minus, so y minus -9 equals
4
times,
n minus 0.
good, yep, first thing you do is plug it in. So plug in y minus, it's always y minus your y value, -9, equals your slope, 4 times x minus your x value, x minus 0. Okay, next thing I would do on this is, let's see, Amaya, what would I do next? What's y minus the -9 become? Yep, so y plus 9. So change that minus the negative to y plus 9. On the right side, what's x minus 0? What's x minus 0? X. So my left side will just be what? 4x, yeah. So if it's x minus 0, it's just x. So you just have 4x. So that makes it a little easier. You don't really have to distribute then. And then the last step, to get y by itself, -9. So y equals 4x minus 9. Okay. Any questions on that? You have plenty of time. You should
Easily be able to get it done. When you get done with the homework today, you can start working on Alex.